Liberty, it's Bobbi Wenger. I'm here to run us through a devotional for the day. We're going to read from Genesis chapter 50, which is the story of Joseph. We're going to talk about it, and then we'll offer a prayer. Let's dive in. Genesis chapter 50, verses 15 to 26. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him." So they sent a message to Joseph saying, "Your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, 'Please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father.'" Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also came and fell down before him and said, "Behold, we are your servants." But Joseph said to them, "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear. I will provide for you and your little ones." Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. So Joseph remained in Egypt, he and his father's house. Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. The children also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were counted as Joseph's own. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am about to die, but God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, "God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here." So Joseph died, being 110 years old. They embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. This passage and this story begins with a fearful group of people hoping for pardon, and ends with mercy, comfort, and hope. Joseph's brothers had sold him into slavery when they were young, and we're here now at the mercy of Joseph, who by God's grace had risen through the ranks in Egypt and sat at in the second position, second to Pharaoh himself. Their father had recently died, and his death may have removed the last layer of perceived protection they had against true justice. Here we find them invoking their father's name and really just hoping for the best from Joseph. Joseph, on the other hand, had been bathed in the presence of God during his time in Egypt, seeing more and more of God's purpose in the events of his life as they unfolded, and learning more and more about God's love for him. There's no question that his brothers, in their smallness and envy and worst moments, meant evil against Joseph, as he acknowledges. But Joseph has learned to trust God. Joseph has learned that God sees what he sees, and that it's just a part of a larger story being woven by God and reflecting his good purpose. With a view of God's goodness and mercy towards him, Joseph weeps when he hears his brother's message. He has compassion on them because they are afraid, and he moves toward them in forgiveness and kindness, comforting them with a promise to provide for them and their little ones. This is a redemptive picture and points us to Jesus' future work on the cross. We know that in Joseph's far future, God's redemptive plan will extend past the boundaries of Joseph's own family and budding nation, and mercifully encompass God's whole creation. Jesus, because he became human himself, is familiar with our fear and our smallness, and he will move toward his own family members in compassion and kindness, with a promise to provide for our every need. Just as Joseph and his brothers couldn't have predicted the direction of his life after he was sold into slavery, Paul reminds us in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think. Today, as we take stock of our circumstances and see that they are suddenly not what we expected, and we feel the constraints of an unfamiliar routine, let's recount the story of Joseph, where a sovereign God, who's the same yesterday, today, and forever, acts according to his good purpose for our good and for his glory. I'm going to end with a prayer from Ephesians 3:14 to 19. "For this reason, I kneel before the Father, from whom his whole family in heaven and on earth derives its name. I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all the saints, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God."